him with the intro. Bam. Let's do it. I am Samuel Sogwa, the son of Koklo, Sam King, and I'm made of everything. I am a bubble of bubbles, rippling connecting this a flow fractal. Yo, hit that like button and subscribe. No, really, do it. All right, and we're live. It just did a little intro and everything. Matt Bowe, man, thanks for hanging out on the podcast, dude.
Awesome. Yeah, happy to be here. Cheers.
This is my second podcast, so still ironing out the kinks, but this time we got an intro in, and last time I accidentally had like a -4 decibels on the guest's volume, which I didn't realize. Oops. Oh man. Yeah, so how's it going, man?
Oh yeah, it's been pretty good. Yeah, I'm just out here in San Diego right now. Yeah, as you know, I was in Bali last year. I think I'm going to stay in San Diego for a few years, though, while I launch a blockchain company.
That's awesome. You're doing remote work, basically?
Yeah. Yeah, so we can work from anywhere.
That's so cool. Oh, man. I just noticed my green screen's not priced correctly, but I don't care. Speaking of backgrounds, I really like that art behind you. What's the story on that, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, yeah. This is someone in the San Diego burner community, Janelle. She does some art. It's funny because I saw it at someone's house and I wanted my own. And then it turned out a bunch of other people have the same idea. So a lot of people in San Diego, we're all friends. We all found out that we all got this same piece of art. So at certain people's houses, they have it. But it's kind of like some kind of calling card or something.
So it's like a heady print. It's like a print that heady people gravitate towards.
Right. Yeah. This so, you're in the club if you have this one.
Nice, dude. Oh man. Yeah. So like you were mentioning earlier, I didn't super prepare, which I probably could have, but I do have random questions for you. So we'll just take it as it goes, and there's no wrong way to do it. That's what I like about this medium. I know that you listen to Joe Rogan here and there. Is that like a habit for you or just hit and miss? How's that?
Yeah, for sure. So when I'm programming or I also do just like UX and art and stuff. And so if I'm working on the computer, a podcast is like easy to throw on. So I'll listen to a lot of Joe Rogan podcasts and other podcasts as well.
What are some of your other favorites?
Like if I go in the gym, I have a bunch saved in my Overcast podcast app, and I set them to 1.25 speed. So I listen to it. Yeah. So there's the Tim Ferriss show, the 4-Hour Work Week.
I don't. That's awesome.
Oh, so Tim Ferriss, it's called the 4-Hour Work Week because he ran a bunch of different A/B split testing, and that one got the most hits. But
for the title,
everyone bothers him because they're like, "Hey, you work more than 4 hours a week," so it's like his curse, But it's about becoming like a digital nomad and working from anywhere.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So he's got a lot of really great content. And then Future Fossils is very trippy. The guy's like very into mushrooms and like DMT and McKenna and all that kind of stuff. But he talks to futurists, so it's like psychedelia and futurism. So that one's cool, but that one gets also a little bit loopy, maybe not as like applicable as Joe Rogan or Tim's. And then just a few, mostly it's motivational stuff, sometimes comedies, but yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. We have such similar interests, and I hadn't heard about those, so I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been trying to find more good content. Man, that's awesome. Let's see.
I can link you I
got it.
Yeah,
I can Google it. Do you still Google, or do you use an alternative search engine?
Oh yeah, so I was trying to use Start Page. It actually uses Google, but it blocks all your recent searches. Just like today, Duck. Yeah, I was using, I think it was Opera, and it had Google as the default. And I just looked into, they recently added that you can set it to automatically delete your old data from like maybe it saves it for only 3 months. Mm-hmm. So I went into that and I just saw just my searches from this morning in Google, and it's just very like, nothing creepy, but at the same time they're building such a avatar of what everything we look at. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put start page on all my other devices. Start page is a little more clunky to use, but that's kind of the trade-off you get with
Yeah.
security. But yeah,
What about Brave? Do you use Brave? I haven't switched yet, but I think that's time.
it's funny because I'm in web development, I'm usually testing all the browsers. So the
True.
newest Opera is really cool. It has an embedded crypto wallet, and then
Nice.
Brave browser is nice because it gives you little Brave tokens. I'm sure
Yeah.
that they're only worth like a penny or 10 cents,
Yeah,
but
the
like
bat.
yeah, one day bat might be worth a lot. So I think it's cool because it could give you a little. It's not a pop up per se, but it's like a one of those notifications. You can click it and that'll give you bat. And then Sites, what it does, and they kind of got some flack for this, but it replaces the ads with Brave ads. So
Oh, that's cool.
a site can opt in, like you can opt in on your own personal site to accept Brave and be giving Brave and get bat and getting the benefits of that. But then sites that aren't using it, you can just still surf with it. So I recommend using Brave. Some of my friends were talking about how to game it, like how to have it be on autopilot and make money per day. And I was like, you're ruining the whole point of it. But people are going to do that.
People always game the system, and that's something that developers have to think about. I'm not a developer, but I do have like an interest in some kind of UBI coin, like a crypto that has a UBI built in. And then the biggest, even so, I'm not really like pursuing that right now. But if I were to, the biggest issue would be people trying to game the system. So that's like the hardest part for developers, I think.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. With UBI, I remember it was a while back. It might have been about Neo or a different coin, but it was basically like, imagine if each city or each location in China of 20,000 people had a certain amount of tokens that was generating revenue, and that was equally distributed amongst the population. And this was a white paper from like years ago, but it was like they're already kind of planning on how they might roll out some type of UBI credit system in the future, like, in the next 20 years.
My understanding is it's unavoidable because of automation.
Yeah, I think some people are fighting it. A lot of people are, calling it communism or whatever. But
Yeah.
but sooner or later, I think even if it doesn't come from the top down, there might just be like, Twitter is working with this thing, and on the side, you're generating like Facebook Libra. If like one scenario I could see, kind of like how BAT gives you tokens. Imagine your whole career of using Facebook. Like if everything I posted, I was getting a few tokens
like
for.
Steam it or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking, imagine children growing up today. They're making apps in third grade. They're getting little tokens off of that. They're getting paid for everything they've posted on all their social medias. So by the time they're 18, they probably have like, a couple of G's or more that they can live off residually. And I can kind of see that as a potential future scenario.
Totally.
So another thing that I'm interested in, and I need to look further into it myself, but universal basic assets instead of universal basic income. So
I haven't heard of this yet.
Money, yeah, the assets, it would be like, let's say there's Tesla cars everywhere or Uber, and everyone can just use Uber for free. Like that would be a free car for everyone, basically. Like that's an asset, or a place to live if you don't have one, or
like sort of like roads or something. Like, yeah, people pay taxes, but even if you're just there, you can use the road, but more complex. Is that way sort of similar?
Yeah, I guess, because when you think about it, we're using money to buy things. But if you just skip the whole money aspect of it and say like, okay, you can get, some amount per week or this much driving, like you're bypassing the monetary system entirely. And I could kind of see that. It's very Star Trek,
yeah.
But that's like incoming sooner or later with like nano 3D printing and stuff. I like to get into those futuristic scenarios because they're going to happen sooner or later.
Dude, forward facing. What's the measurement where they're measuring what percentage of a 3D printer can be made by a 3D printer? And then as the technology increases, that proportion goes up. And then supposedly when it gets to 100%, or super close, is when we're like really close to the singularity.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, like Kurzweil projected the singularity at around 2045. And I actually wrote an article called 2045. I said it's the new 2012. Like 2012 was like this omega point of everything switching. And actually, if you zoom out on a human timeline, that was about when like the internet and everything started. So it kind of was, in retrospect, an accurate prediction of when everything shifted. Everything went online.
Yeah, I think iPhone 1 was like 2009 or something, but it didn't really, the adoption didn't pick up. Yeah, like you said, 2012 was when like YouTube, smartphones, like everything was starting to be in full swing.
And even if it's off by a couple of decades or even a couple hundred years, in like the grand scheme of thing, if you really consider how crazy our exponential advancement is, like just a few generations ago, they didn't even have trains, and now babies are playing on iPads and like everything's online. And so how some people are simulation theory, it's kind of a new religion forming, because it's almost like a computer avatar of God that people can kind of identify with. That it brings back intelligent design. Like I was always like, nah, how could this be designed? But then when you get to advanced enough quantum singularity level computers, high probability this could all be a big simulation. So
dude, this is so cool. I don't meet many people that we're thinking along the same lines. We obviously have our differences, but man, like I'm right there with you. This is the stuff that I think is interesting, that I think is important, and that I study. Let me zoom out a little bit and ask you sort of what's your like history in a nutshell, whatever you care to share. Like how did you get to where you are? I know it's a big question.
Yeah. So
what's the story of Matt? Is it Bo? Is it Bo? Is that how you pronounce your name, Matt Bo?
Yeah, I go by Matt Bo. I actually, so there's like 100 different versions I could say.
I know, right?
I
Whatever one you want. No.
Yeah. So my birthday is the same day as Terrence McKenna's, and so that's maybe gives some insight as to like why I'm really into this like psychedelic futurism, perhaps.
Nice, dude.
So I feel a big like connection with that. But then beyond that, when I was growing up, I was always kind of a bit just extra into computers, into being like a hacker, being into a gamer. Like some people asked me if I was autistic, and I don't think so. I think I'm just like heavily interested in things that I like, and a quick learner. So when I was 18, I co-founded a company with some people called nootropics.com, NOOTROPIX. I'm not currently on that site anymore because I had a team of 8 admins and I let them sort of run it. So I still own it, but I've just let them totally take control of it. Like someday I might come back into it, but that's why I'm so understanding about I've at one point or another probably tried every nootropic out there, got all into like life extension, futurism, and then as I sort of pursued other things, if you will, like I've had like over inspiration. You're supposed to like focus on one thing to achieve breakthrough success at it, and so I have been a habitual like serial entrepreneur, but also haven't really fully broken through with any one company yet because I keep like going on to the next thing. But now I finally feel like, okay, now I've tried everything. Now I can focus. And now my current company is called Block Theorem. I'm working with a couple other engineers, and it's about integrating enterprise level blockchain tech, basically web development consulting at the moment, but for big companies. And you see how big blockchain is moving forward. We have there's like the sky's the limit. There's so many projects going on. It's a lot. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now. But I definitely still study nootropics every day. I'm still an admin of the largest official Facebook nootropics group, so I can add you to that. And then I'm hearing about stuff every day that even I didn't know. Like there's isolated terpenes from CBD and marijuana. Like I forget what they're called right now, but there's one for sleep, there's one for anti-inflammatory, one for mood. So exploring those, exploring various peptides. a lot of people are scared away from the peptides because most of them are IM injection, but you can actually take most of them sublingual, so you don't have to inject yourself with anything.
Yeah, less
you just,
invasive.
yeah, put it under your lip. So, um, on that tip, I've been super into like figuring out if let me back up a sec.
Yeah.
So I actually probably developed allergies maybe from my exploring of all these, but also I tried to be a hardcore raw food vegan for like 2 years. I was vegan, and then I was raw food for like 6 months, and then I became allergic to most fruits and vegetables for a while, and
Oh,
it was really
interesting.
weird because it just happened out of nowhere.
And were you doing
And
organic?
yeah, for the most part, maybe
Okay.
the thing that triggered the avocado and banana, maybe those weren't organic, because sometimes I'd just be like out and about and I'd like want to eat something.
Yeah.
So in studying that, like how to fix myself, I found this site that I recommend this to everyone. It's called selfdecode.com.
Nice.
You do like a 23andMe, or you could do a more secure one. There's a bunch of other
Options.
blockchain ones, or ones if you're scared of security. But anyway, you do a 23andMe, send it in. Self Decode will tell you your genetic polymorphism variants, and what that can mean is like if you're optimal, you'll detox mercury at like a normal rate and get it out of you. But if you're not, there's all these different steps because of your different gene expression that maybe when you eat mercury, it like stays in you longer. So if you read your chart and you're like, okay, I metabolize dopamine faster or slower, or I got to avoid this or that. But it lets people, because I see so many people who might say they're depressed or they're feeling weird or this or that. And the current medical system's approach is a very buckshot, like, hey, try this, see if you feel better. But
Yeah.
they're not analyzing the person to see if like, what are their, maybe they're B12 folate deficient, maybe they have the Mutherfer variation and they need to avoid that one. So all of that, I'm not a doctor, but I feel like I can cure or help a lot of people with like base issues. Like most people are following a recipe to feel a bit tired and out of it. So anyway, coming into optimization, I feel like I've been kind of figuring it out. And I made a post a few weeks ago just about like little game changers, like an infrared sauna boost dynorphin and heat shock proteins, and that makes your own endorphins more potent. So you're like a little bit happier because of that. Then if you exercise, a couple, we were both doing the 100 days of sweat. Exercising is awesome. Getting enough omega-3s, that helps you generate dopamine in the prefrontal cortex, executive function. So like, how do we optimize executive function? There's all these different things you could be eating or doing. So once you get it dialed in, imagine each thing only gives you like 2% gains, but when you stack them all, that's when you see this like huge difference. So I've been this week experimenting with actually mostly raw, like sashimi, which I don't think is good long term to eat that much fish, but I just wanted to try it. And I was also eating kimchi and miso for the probiotics. So with that, trying to like optimize my memory, trying to optimize my energy, and then trying to, I want to help other people figure that out. Cause it's almost like, the meme of people being like, I'm depressed. And I'm thinking like, well, they probably like drank a soda, didn't get enough sleep, didn't exercise. They're just a whole recipe of like, well, that would make me feel bad too. So if they try, and I don't want to be, what's that called? Yeah. Negative on anyone who actually has an issue. I'm not saying like just do yoga and you'll be better, because I know there's definitely a level.
Simple.
Yeah, because I know when I'm trying to help people, there are a lot of people who are like, just get some sunlight. Vitamin D is awesome, by the way, but some people have like actual like maybe just trauma or actual damaged neurons. It's not just all the stuff I was mentioning, but if people will try that at least to get a baseline, like have they done a self-decode? That I think is a game changer for so many people. And I wish I would have thought of that website. I keep recommending it to everyone. I'm not even affiliated with that guy. I should hit him up because that's one of the hugest things I've seen lately. Like a really big deal that could change a lot of people's lives who might not. Maybe they're like, I don't know why I feel sick all the time, and they take their test and they're like, oh, I'm like 2 days after I eat an apple, I'm gonna feel brain fog, and they like didn't know that until they took this test. So, oh, I've been eating apples my whole life, or I've been eating grains my whole life, whatever it is.
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, I feel you on it.
Oh yeah. So
Blow my
wait, I
mind,
went on
dude.
a okay. So that was
No, I
my
love it.
yeah.
I love it.
So,
I was gonna say, oh, I was just gonna make the yeah. It's like say someone had some issue, but then they were drinking a lot of soda. Yeah, maybe drinking a lot of soda wouldn't cure their issue, but it would still probably move them in the right direction. So even though yeah, we're not doctors, we still can help people by pointing out certain habits that they might not even know are hurting them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I there's another site. It's by the guy who did self decode. It's called selfhacked.com. And selfhacked.com has for various neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, etc. How to generate more of that if you need it. So like kombucha generates lactate that helps ATP, that's energy production. Some people might need to avoid that, but I think that's for me one of the biggest game changers is getting like energy up naturally, feeling like high energy all the time, if possible.
Yeah, because especially when we have so many interests, that's what's going to allow us to accomplish things. That makes me think. Let me ask you, how do you do your schedule? Is it set? Is it fluid? That's something I'm working on right now. Is trying to figure out my best schedule. Would you care to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I've never been a morning person, but I became very obsessed with, excuse me, becoming successful. Like I want not necessarily to like be a billionaire, but like just to be financially independent and do whatever I want
Ditto.
all the time and like help the earth. Like I'm not trying to, you know,
You're not
a
trying
lot
to
of
only help yourself. You'd like to help some others as well as yourself.
because I think what happened before was like, a group of 10 people, they're at a board meeting and maybe they're in the oil and war industry. And they're like, okay, if we sign this document, we all make $2 billion, but like a bunch of people are going to die. And they're like, oh, that sucks. But okay, I like money. And it's like, that's how it used to go down. But
Yeah.
the new one, people before profits, it doesn't have to be like that. Like we can all be effectively have the wealth and lifestyle of a millionaire without negatively impacting others. Like
Agree.
it can be win-win.
Yes, win-win is the way to do it. Yeah, do you know one of my favorite things? Well, there's a lot of things on Wikipedia, but do you know what a progress trap is?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah,
Like
it's a simple concept. I'm sure you know the concept. So it's just that when the short-term gains, it's when something has short-term gains but long-term detriments, and people don't consider the long-term detriments because they're more interested in the short-term gains. Well, it's a progress trap because they're making progress in the short term, but in the long term, it's not progress.
yeah, like it's not even a like a conspiracy, but just imagine like the oil industry. They're like, okay, we could get regulated out of existence. We could stop doing what we're doing, or we can pay off like a certain percentage of our income to keep this thing going and make more profits. And now it's going to damage the earth for like 100 more years, but like we're all going to make an extra $1 trillion each. And so to them, when they're at that meeting, when money's the bottom line, I see how seductive that is. So I'm hoping that wealth, like coming back to the 3D nanoprinter stuff, imagine it'll just print them whatever they want. It doesn't have to be killing someone for them to get something. So I'm highly optimistic. Actually, I know a lot of people. There's 1,000 million doomsday scenarios, but I don't think it's wise to focus on those.
Yeah, it's good to be aware of them. I'm pretty much on that level myself. So there's and I study and I see a lot of the issues and doomsday scenarios. I think I've been saying lately that I think the only way out is through, as in reference to the technology. Like, yeah, maybe it would be healthier just to be like a tribal society with like a really good analog consensus governance, right? But we're not there, and we're pretty much imprisoned in the sense that we can't just get there, right? So that's not really an option. People can do it on a local level, but what I think is moving forward using like open source technologies, passionately crowdsourced technologies, I think we'll be able to out evolve our systems of enslavement. I think that the monetary systems that we're enslaved to, the governance that we're enslaved to, even the corporate systems we're enslaved to, are going to move slower than the passion-driven open source systems. And then I think, yeah, maybe they have control for a while, and even if we have a better system, they have control for a while. But I think it gets to a point where they say, create a system that makes the old system obsolete, and that's the win scenario that I see occurring.
Did you ever see Silicon Valley's Ultimate Exit? That was by Balaji Srinivasan. He was the CTO of Coinbase. But Silicon Valley's Ultimate Exit is awesome because it's about how the rate of innovation will be so fast that it can't get regulated in time.
Yes.
Like just how Uber came in and how
we're already seeing that.
Yeah, and so he was all about like Bitcoin and VR and everything moving forward. But he has this concept called voice and exit. Exit, like if you think of how the Pilgrims left England, if they tried to stay there and tried to make change from within, it didn't really work. So they had to leave to form a new system, or how it was people at Microsoft leaving, maybe made Google, etc. So one common counterpoint to that, people go is like, well, I'm not just going to leave America. Like that's, but
yeah, it's not physical anymore.
You can exit in place. Yeah. And so there's a voice and exit conference in Texas each year. I think they might have changed the name, but definitely like it's a really cool idea that's already sort of happening. This exit in place model, how there's just these other layers of things going on beyond the old paradigm, like outside of it.
They used to say vote with your dollar, and there's probably a more updated version of that. It's like vote with your mind, like vote with your choices. Speaking of choices, let me bring it back. So do you have sort of like a schedule?
Oh yeah. So the reason I went into all that stuff is because I was
extra perfect. So perfect.
I was looking into just like millionaire success habits. Who are millionaires that I can model some of the things they did? What advice can they give me? So one of the guys, he's kind of a jerk, and some people think he's full of it, but his name was Dan Pena. And I overheard him in one of his chats say he ran 20 miles every week, like on a Saturday. And I was like, oh, wow, I've never ran 20 miles in my life. And he exercises twice a day, and I think he's like 70 years old. Dang. So I'm like, okay, even if I don't become wealthy off this, I'm going to just try it. Like, just do a little 30-day trial of like exercise twice a day, see how far I can run. So I got into studying habits, and there's this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And that's about like incremental 1% micro habits, getting started. The Miracle Morning, that's about like getting up and getting started in your morning. And then Superhuman by Habit, that was the other one. So those three books about really becoming habit conscious and trying to forge good habits. I've never been a morning person. I used to wake up at like 10, 11, 12, sometimes like 4 in the afternoon. So now I've been getting up earlier and earlier. Like I was actually getting up at like crazy hours, like 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Lately, like 4 or 5 or 6, but I would try to get up early. It's painful the first like 3 days, but then you get used to it because you're tired all day. Yeah. So it's like the way I have figured it out for myself to do it is have some kind of thing ready, like maybe like a coffee, or I have these LIFX lights that I set on a timer, so they're bright at like 3 or 4 a.m. So the lights are better than an alarm, because an alarm you'll just snooze it. And rehearsing, like rolling out of bed, like what am I going to do when I get up, like practicing like 5 times, like what I'm going to do. Because when you're half asleep, when you wake up, like I love nothing more than to just like go back to sleep. And in that mind, I'm just like, I feel too bad to wake up. Like I don't need to be waking up.
Yeah.
So I've never been an early riser, but finally I like figured it out. But I also have noticed that I was on a good one like maybe a week or two ago where I was just getting up at 4. I was like killing it, going to bed a little bit early. Then like a weekend or two ago, I stayed out late because there was some party going on. And it wasn't even that late. It was like 1 a.m. But just by staying out till 1 a.m. like threw me off. Like it took me a whole week to get back onto it. So one thing that's happening by getting up early is I'm having to say no to all my friends, which is like kind of a bummer, but like I want to bring
late
this
night things.
Yeah, like because I used to always just I'm involved in the San Diego drum and bass scene, and
Nice.
so I'd go out like 3 nights a week or the weekend. There's just always stuff happening, and there's always a cool reason why I should go out. Like, oh, it's so and so like in town only once a year, or it's somebody's birthday, or there's just all these reasons. And I've been applying the 80-20 rule. Like I haven't been missing everything, but like saying no to most of it, so that because I need to get up and like run, or I need to get up, like it's not about being motivated. It's almost like it's on my schedule. Like I have to get up tomorrow for a meeting at the gym at 5 a.m. and I can't miss it, like no matter what. And so then when my buddy's like, hey, want to come out? Something's happening. I have to just be like, can't do it because I'm trying to be strict on myself. And I never have been before. I've never like tried to go to bed early. And it's hard because of like lighting and stuff keeps us awake. I actually have a lot of so at work when I'm programming, I wear these gunners.
Nice.
And then I have like a couple pairs of gunners. I have these for really late at night. I'll put them on, and then if I like want to go to the bathroom at 3 a.m, the lights won't affect my circadian rhythm. So that's been good. I haven't really seen too much change, but there's this thing in the incremental, it's called something. It's like on the scale, you don't see any progress until the end. So you're in this like the pit of where it seems like nothing's happening.
Like a purgatory or something.
Yeah, like I'm in there, but I also know I believe in it and I feel it's coming. Like I've believed in things before and they worked out. And so even though I'm not necessarily seeing a ton of progress, I feel like by avoiding doing what I've always done, which is like going out all the time, staying out late,
prioritizing entertainment. Yeah,
I'm trying to prioritize like learning, like taking classes, reading a book, going to the gym, doing anything productive that's like aligned with art or something like this. And slowly it's all stacking. And with Block Theorem, we just launched it. So we actually haven't turned on the marketing and haven't started really getting customers. But so in my past, I have started other web development companies. And the thing that I fell into was this entrepreneurial trap of where everything had to be run by me. Like I had to do everything. And I just ended up turning into like having to work 100 hours a week to keep it going. Even if I would delegate, for some reason, I just had too much, like, I didn't have systems. So my new business partners are very systems minded. They've already successfully ran other businesses. It was exactly what I was missing. And we've been focused on just like, what's our workflow? What's our process? What's our system? And then I'm in a good space to actually focus on it. Because before I might have been like just partying all the time while trying to launch kind of companies and things. So yeah, I'm feeling overall like everything's come together. You know what about manifesting? It usually happens a bit later than you plan. You're like, oh, it didn't work yet. But then I found this old journal from like 10 years ago that I wrote like one day I want to go to Bali. And like, then it happened way later.
Wow.
So everything is happening. It's just like, it's not always instant.
Yeah, it's on the scale that it needs to happen on, not on the scale that we necessarily want it to happen on.
Yeah, and so with back to like scheduling. So I do try to get up I should probably be more consistent because I've been trying to get up at like sometimes 3, sometimes 4, sometimes 5, but like around those times, like super hella early, like almost so early it feels like I stayed up all night. But that's the best time to really crunch on stuff because no one's awake. No one's.
I hear that's what Omar Bam's been doing. You know, crypto's news on YouTube.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah. So besides the hour, do you have like a pretty consistent routine? For what besides the hour?
Yeah, like I'll so Tim Ferriss talked about having 30 grams of protein like first thing. So maybe I'll make a protein shake or I'll like cook something. And then I usually go to the gym. Sometimes I'll switch it up. Like I might go to the gym at night or I might go in the morning or I might do both. I'm a little bit inconsistent there, but I try to go at least once a day so I could put in that I did, like 100 days of sweat. And I haven't always been posting that I went, but like for me, one way that I was saying I felt like I was cheating because at my gym, it's called Choose Fitness in San Diego. They have a movie theater and they play old movies. And so you can be like on a bike, on a treadmill, on a elliptical and watch these old movies. So I just watched like Suicide Squad, Indiana Jones, and I'm kind of probably some people are purists and like don't even listen to music at the gym, but sometimes I'll be watching that movie and on like my phone, like Googling things, and I'm just like being overstimulated, but it helps me to like hang in there and like get 6 miles down. Otherwise I would have gotten bored.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't personally call that cheating. I
right. Yeah. Do what you gotta
opinion.
To make it work. And then I think another way that I was able to maintain such a high rate, because I was adding a mile a day, was at that gym as well. They have the infrared sauna, which I guess clears out the lactic acid. So I would never be sore after it. It was only when I started getting above 10 miles, like after 3 days of that, I just felt exhausted and I had to take a few days of chill mode. So I've ramped it down. Like one guy I was trying to copy was Casey Neistat.
Yeah.
He supposedly runs like 10 to 12 miles a day, but yeah, I'm not there yet.
That's cool. I came across him. I've been really studying just sort of what YouTubers, not specific to you, but just like content creators, like vloggers, and I guess he invented or he sort of popularized the modern cinematic vlogging style. So that's how I discovered him. He's cool.
Yeah, he's probably one of my running inspirations. Yeah,
because that's so awesome. And he loves the also just the various modes of personal transportation. The little electric unicycles and the one wheels, all that stuff.
Yeah, the first 360 video I saw randomly came up in my feed. It was from him. It was on YouTube, and I was like, "Wait a minute! I could turn my phone around." And like, it was him on one of those boosted boards, and that was crazy.
What do you use for transportation? I have a van, and I biked almost my whole life, but then I finally got a van, and then I finally just got my bike again. So so I just do a little bit of both: walk, bike, van.
Awesome. Yeah, so back in the bull run, I got into certain cryptos like Dragon Chain, Icon, just Bitcoin, a few other ones, but I sold a lot of them at the top, not knowing it was the top, but just because I was like, you know what, I want to buy a car for festivals. So I bought just like a used Nissan Xterra because one of my friends had one and would always just camp inside of it. Like it makes a nice bed.
Nice.
And I was like, okay, like I don't want to like get a Lexus for the festivals, and I also don't want to like ball out of control and waste money, because if you think of like who's Warren Buffett, he still like drives his old Corolla. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna tone it down. I would like a Tesla at some point,
but might as well wait to the next generations. I mean,
I might get like a truck maybe. Yeah, totally. So right now, I just drive a Xterra around. Use it for festivals mostly. Yeah,
that's awesome. Dude, thanks for letting me ask you all these questions, man. I feel bad, like you're talking so much. I'm just like, oh yeah, what about this one thing you're you're so interesting.
I'm involved in so many things. Like I'm trying to focused, but at the same time, I know. So I didn't even mention like when I first started in the drum and bass scene, I started a crew called One Massive. I used to DJ drum and bass, and then I got a bunch of my friends into it. We were about a crew of 9 people. I started emceeing for them. I sold my decks. I quit DJing, but I just was a resident MC at a bunch of places. And now I kind of have like stepped out of the scene. Like I still am involved on the sidelines. One of the crews I'm with is called Circuit System, and they are doing like future focused bass music. Mm-hmm. And even though I'm not like an official DJ or MC with them, I'm still like, I feel like helping them like throw events. And one day I want to like come back into production. I just saw that because I have like a MIDI keyboard over there. I've messed with like.
So you're feeling like D&B production, like actually making it.
I used to live with Necromagon. I don't know if you know him, but Necroma Aragon. I lived with him up in Big Bear, and he is one of the top psytrance DJs on Xenon Records. And he showed me when I was messing around in Ableton just some production tips, and I was like, dude, why don't you make drum and bass or like trap? You could totally like kill it, because he's like really really good at any genre. Nice. But he's like a psytrance purist. Like he totally could have sold out on an Alias, but he showed me some things. But then I guess just in my travels, because another thing I got into was doing tea at festivals. So for a while I was the tea guy at music festivals, and I quit doing the D&B thing. I got to go to like every music festival every weekend for like years, which was awesome, but I was always just like breaking even. I never was like thriving. Like, so I got to go to, it would have cost me like $100K or more to go to all those. So it was worth it.
You got some good experiences.
Definitely. And so at some point or another, I think what I'm thinking is leverage. If I get like, for instance, this blockchain company going, then I can pursue like throwing an event. Like I'd love to throw a huge festival and then be at my own party, emceeing or DJing. So I have these plans, but like, yeah, I felt like nothing's really, when I first started DJing, I imagined like maybe one day I'll be like, who's a famous DJ, Tiesto or some Deadmau5 or something. And then I'm like, oh man, it didn't work. But like,
back to what you said earlier, things happen in the course that they're meant to happen in.
A crazy thing happened to me when I was out in Bali. Calculon came to visit, and I went to his show, and the owner knew that I was an MC, I thought I was getting thrown out by security. The security like brought me on stage and gave me a mic, and I like MC'd a party in Bali with Calculon, like not even prepared for it. But
what's up, guys? I thought I was about to get kicked out, but I'm actually here now.
So that was dope. So that was like, I was like, whoa, what's happening? So yeah, so I'm definitely involved in like 1,000 things. I'm trying to, find my focus, but at the same time, I don't want to like lose any of these things. So yeah.
I think there's no, hard limits to what a human can do. I've actually been trying to find this old quote. It's like some old philosopher, and it's just like a human can, I remember like set a bone, negotiate peace between warring tribes. Like it's just like said all these things, like, what I mean? It was such a good quote, and I haven't been able to find it again.
I know what you mean. I think I saw that, like what a real gentleman can do is like all this, and it was all kind of like
deliver a baby, set a bone, perform a marriage, negotiate peace between 2 tribes, etc.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. So I think it is like sequencing. Like, so imagine actually, so I'm thinking a lot, but yeah. You're so good, if I focused on music, true, I could like come through with that and like attain success there. But maybe perhaps what I'm pursuing right now is maybe call it like passive income, if you will. Yeah, then I'm more free to do the music thing and not feel so put out by it if it doesn't instantly work out.
Yeah, Girl Talk, the mashup guy?
Yeah.
He was a biology teacher and just did Girl Talk in his free time. I mean, there's really no one way to do it, and I know you know that.
That's great. Do you know it also? Headflux, he's a Cybreaks producer. He has a PhD in quantum physics.
Dang. I love it. Yeah, I've produced amateurly for 20 years now. like just
Awesome.
amateur, straight up. And just recently, I was like, you know what? I've got so many songs, and like 5% of them are like really good. So I'm gonna take those 5% and redo them. And then I just watched Beats on Netflix, which is about like a hip hop prodigy producer who has like extreme PTSD from a shooting. And it's such a good movie, and the hip hop production is off the chart. It's basically all like super heady trap hip hop stuff. And so I've been really inspired by that. I've been watching a bunch more like trap and EQ tutorials and stuff like that. And I mean, it's powerful. There's not that many jeweler YouTube channels yet. It's still like an untapped market. But one of them is called Icebox, and their clientele is predominantly musicians that had hit singles.
Oh, I think that's right. Yeah, like it was like Billie Eilish wearing icebox stuff. Yeah, I
She's
started
one of them.
seeing. Yeah, I was hearing about some artists going through there. That's cool.
Yeah, it's just one of the few jewelry channels. There's producer Michael, who's just a rich producer, but he is a fan of watches and jewelers, so he goes to them. And then Icebox is an actual jewelry shop channel. And then there's not much more than that yet. So that's cool. But yeah, man, dude, I'm loving your focus, man. I'm loving that the more I level myself up, the more I'm connecting with people who are on this trajectory. Or there's so many ways you could phrase it. I probably don't have the
I
best
just
phrasing.
someone told me that today. Someone else was just like, "Hey, like you seem like you know what's going on," and like we're all yeah, everyone who's like waking up, if you will, or just figuring out their path and on this trajectory. It
and,
seems
and
like
exercising the discipline and doing the metacognition, doing the self work, like cutting out the some amount of the distractions, right? Like because some distraction is healthy. Um,
yeah, I
and
still
and
love gaming.
yeah, what do you like? If you
Oh,
don't mind me asking.
I just found this. It was 2 days ago. It's called Slipgate,
Mm,
and it's like Halo plus Portal,
huh.
and it's pretty cool. Yeah, I'll send you a link to it.
I'll look it up.
But most
You've made a lot of suggestions of musicians too. I'll be looking up.
and mostly Overwatch. I have like two accounts on that. I wanted to go semi pro. I mostly main McCree, but I used to play Overwatch like at least 2 hours a day. Now not so much, but I noticed when I quit it for a while, like I quit a whole month of it, I was starting to just feel a little like not as sharp, like because it gives me so when I'm really into it, I'm thinking so fast. I'm like juggling. Yeah, and then I'm all like
Pinpoint focus.
yeah, and then this is really funny, but I learned in Quake, if you don't finish a person, like if you don't kill a person, someone else will get your frag. So you have to like finish what you start. Like if you go shoot every person once but don't kill any of them, you get zero. But if you
Mm-hmm.
finish people, so it's almost like finishing tasks. It,
Mm-hmm.
it taught me about just like really focusing and getting it done. But it also taught me like juggling, like bunny hopping while dodging rockets, while shooting rockets. So that, yeah, that definitely was a huge part of my growing up.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, Overwatch never caught me, but I've watched it on YouTube. I like Apex Legends right
Apex School.
now. It's really like quick. Um, that's actually an interesting segue. So what I'm seeing, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, is so it looks like social networks are gonna usurp banks and governments. It's a little longer down the line, right? That's not like a super near term thing, but I think Libra is the beginning of it, because why would someone use the bank's version of Libra, or even PayPal's version? Because then you just get the one thing. But if it's the social networks version, you get all the benefits of the social network plus the benefit of the bank and the benefit of the governance. So I'm seeing that start to usurp. But then it's also everything's becoming gamified. So it looks like everything's trending towards like the Oasis, like the Ready Player One style
I, I
Oasis.
really see that happening because imagine that like all drudgery jobs are automated away,
Mm-hmm.
and even like really creative jobs, like a job that someone thinks is untouchable, like AI is still able to come in there and assist, and maybe people will be working with it. But like, what's funny is coming back to like, well, what if everyone's just like a Twitch streamer and like does that most of the time, or does stuff like this, like moving into non drudge type work, but rather more like creative, fun, chatting things. Like this is like really aligned with that, and I could see that definitely gaining more traction moving forward. Like, what's that called? It's called like mukbang, where in Korea people just eat food, and now they're doing it in America. And I remember saying like, who the f would ever watch that? How could anyone ever make money on that? And now people are doing it all the time. They're just eating like 10 hamburgers and getting like $1,000 for it.
Yeah, I mean, so I've watched gaming, but I definitely haven't. I mean, watched mukbang. It doesn't like appeal to me, but I mean, I don't have any issue with it. I mean, if people want to stream themselves eating, I'm like, oh, that's what you're doing.
It's just, what a funny like thing that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have predicted that. That's for sure. Yeah, and people like us, we might see and accurately call some predictions, maybe more so than people that aren't looking towards the future. But even then, and even if someone's like really good at it, there's still going to be things that occur that's like we never even like considered, which I think is so interesting.
Just how maybe before smartphones, no one would have thought of like Twitter and what's like on top of those platforms, or like Uber, etc. So as these new networks are being rolled out, like imagine like AR, 5G networks. Like, have you heard of that streaming service from Google with gaming? What it's effectively
Stadia.
Yeah, what it's going to be able to do is, imagine there's like a supercomputer somewhere, and then anyone with any kind of hardware, but they have the connection speed, the frame rates are so high that they can be playing like an Overwatch style game real time and be keeping up. And so it's effectively giving everyone a really cheap supercomputer.
Mm-hmm. I actually thought yesterday for the first time, maybe that's the route that AR glasses will take. Maybe they'll be off-sourcing a lot of the processing. I had never thought that before until yesterday.
I've been waiting for it, because a lot of times I'm like, man, why do I have to like unlock my phone and look something up? I want to just be like, boop, boop.
I mean, we're super close. I think what happened is, one, they're just trying to get the heat down, right? And then the display lower powered, and that's making pretty good progress. And then I think, what was the other thing? Battery technologies, slowly coming along. I forgot what I was about to say. Oh, the interface. I think they pretty much realized that they're working on that Neuralink. I think that AR works best with Neuralink or whatever version of it. I think hand gestures and stuff, I think it's all too low bandwidth.
That makes sense. Yeah, I was just reading today about one. It was like moving a robotic arm with no invasive surgery. Like maybe you just put on a headset.
Yeah.
So that's how Neuralink.
Almost there.
Yeah, like because you don't want to